So yeah, today we're going to be talking about how to be found online and sell more courses. We're joined by Peter and Rob. I'll hand over to them in just a moment to introduce themselves. But first off, to quickly introduce myself, my name is Andre, and I serve as the North American Regional Manager here at Arlo. I've worked at Arlo coming up on 6 years now, and yeah, in that time, I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of training providers optimize and scale their businesses. For those of you who aren't familiar with Arlo, we're really just a software platform to help you run your entire training operation. So from delivering a great learner experience all the way through to automating that manual work that goes into scheduling, selling, and delivering courses, whether that's in person, virtually instructor-led, self-paced online, or a blended mix of all of those. Yeah, so let's meet our co-hosts. Peter, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Andre. So briefly, I'm Peter Evans. I've been in the training business for around about 35 years, and it's been lovely during that period to realize that educators are in the top three most respected professions on the planet. And I've now moved into the world of marketing, and sadly, marketers are in the top three most hated professions on the planet. And what I want to do today is explain a little bit about marketing from the training provider's perspective. So that's really going to be my brief today. But I'll just let you have one moment in the chat. Can you possibly guess what the regularly most hated profession is across the planet? And it isn't marketing. So I'll leave that with you and pass over to my colleague, Rob.
Awesome. Thank you,
Okay,
Peter.
thanks very much. I'm distracted now because straight away Tim didn't even wait for you to finish the question. He was straight in there with lawyers. Um, two for dentists as well. All right, this is. I think we could just have a little psychological debate over the next hour on this as well. All right, there seems to be a bit of a grouping. All right, so I'm getting distracted by that. So my name's Rob Woods, and so I would say I've got two roles for you today. The first one is I'm here as a director, like Peter, of the training marketplace. So cards on the table, I'll be telling you how the training marketplace can be great for your company and can help you with marketing. But I also run a financial training company called Alumno Consulting. And I've been in financial training now for over 30 years. And I want to take this opportunity for my small part to discuss marketing methods that have worked for me in the past and also those ones which have failed for me. I also want to open a dialogue. We've got lots of reactions in the chat for that first question. Hopefully that's going to continue throughout. And effectively, when we get back to me, I'm going to be asking what marketing actually means to you and also maybe try and challenge your current marketing methods. And I would encourage you to challenge everything that I say or any of the rest of us say as well. But for now, I'm going to hand you back to Peter to talk more about the training marketplace briefly and key lessons that we've learned as we've been building that company.
Thanks, Rob. So just to explain what we are and where we're coming from, effectively, we are a marketplace. Our role is really to get rid of the middleman, to make sure that you, as a training provider, can be found directly by someone looking for training. And what we have is a very straightforward interface for those people looking to buy training. They can search on a traditional database way, very structured search, or they can use our natural language processing and just type in freeform and hopefully find you. So essentially where we're coming from, we're removing the broker, the middleman, and letting you find your customers directly. More about that later, but pass now on to Andre to introduce things.
Thank you, Peter and Rob. Yeah, great to have you both here today. So a bit of an agenda for what we're going to cover. We're going to start off with a bit of an overview of how learners are currently searching for, comparing and enrolling in courses. We'll look at some of the key trends for 2025, including the rise of what's called AI search. Next, we'll look at how you can use online marketplaces to really get in front of your ideal customers. And then finally, some of the fundamentals of a high converting training website. And then we'll wrap all of that up with a live Q&A. So just before we jump into things, you'll see that in your Zoom window, at the bottom of it there, you'll have two options. You'll have a Q&A button and a chat button. So as we're going through the content today, if any kind of questions come up, if you have any thoughts or ideas, feel free to post them in the chat. We'll either kind of respond to them where it makes sense, or we'll also have that time at the end to kind of answer any outstanding questions that you all have. So first off, how do buyers search for, compare, and enroll in courses right now? So before I kind of share some of the insights, I'd love to kind of hear from all of you about where you're currently getting your registrations from. So you'll see a poll come up on your screen just there. Love it if you just take a moment to fill in where you're seeing your training registrations coming from and a little bit about you. And this will help us kind of guide the conversation that we'll have after this. So yeah, go ahead and fill that in. We'll give everyone a minute or so to do so. If you have any questions or any issues with the poll, feel free to just post that question in the chat. We're happy to help if any of you do get stuck there. So you can see the results coming through there now. Give everyone another 30 seconds or so. Maybe 10 more seconds. All right, Andre, do you want to share those results? Awesome. So I can, quite a variety of different options there. I can see that word of mouth and referrals is definitely the clear winner in terms of where those registrations are coming for most people at the moment. Let's look at the registration numbers, the challenges that are kind of in terms of getting those registrations. Key one there is not enough time to spend on marketing. So that's a really interesting one we'll have a look at in a little bit further later on. And yeah, a real variety in terms of size of organization. Peter and Rob, any kind of key comments or themes you're seeing there?
Certainly from a training provider's perspective, I can very much relate to the word of mouth being the 77%. You know, I completely concur with that, and I rely on existing clients liking me and wanting me again, or sometimes those clients moving firms and remembering me, or on occasion, delegates actually getting promoted a few times to suddenly controlling budgets, which again, hopefully we'll be able to show is a little bit of a reactive way of trying to get my business, and it kind of takes the control away from me. So that's where I'm definitely trying to shift away from now at the moment.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I mean, we, as a training company, would get lots of effectively word of mouth, maybe a L&D team or someone would move from one company to another and use us. And I think what we're looking at is actually digitizing that if possible, because now with obviously what we can do, as you can see, we've got people from California to New Zealand on this call, and the ability to have that digital word of mouth is something I think that we will run through as we go through the webinar.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks everyone for filling that in. That's great. So yeah, the training industry or the training kind of global training market is huge, all right? And it is continuing to grow. We're seeing that it's on track to hit nearly $200 billion by 2030. So this is, a huge opportunity. But with that huge opportunity comes a huge amount of competition as well. So it's a loud, busy kind of market. And how do we take our slice of that 200 billion is kind of what we're going to be tapping into today. How do we keep ahead of these? How do we also, as the buyer behavior changes, we need to kind of keep up with that and be aware of how to make the most of it. And Peter, I know that you've seen very similar stuff on the training market place side of things as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of our mission is to say this is a fantastic market. This is a great place to be in. It is growing, but the problem with vast and huge markets is that they can be bought up by the large players. And, I'm guessing that a lot of people on this call are looking for a slice of that market without hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on their SEO.
Absolutely. Awesome. So some of the key trends for 2025, um, be where your customers are. Now, this is a fundamental kind of piece of marketing. But as we mentioned, things are changing. There's, especially in the last few years, we've seen a bit of a shift in buyer behavior. So it's about being kind of up with understanding where your customers are going to search for courses and compare different options, making it easy. This is crucial, especially with attention spans being shorter than ever. Trying to make it as quick and easy to find the course that they're looking for and register is foundational to 2025. And then building trust and credibility. With so much competition out there, one of the ways you can really stand out is by having that strong levels of trust and credibility. Things like building a strong brand, tapping into referral sites, customer reviews, and testimonials are all some of the great ways to do that. And then where are learners searching for training? Now, we did hear from you a little bit earlier, and you mentioned that word of mouth referrals is one of the key channels that people are coming to you from. And that's obviously great. That really means that people love your courses so much that they want to go and refer it or recommend it to other people. So that's a great start. And there are things you can do to kind of help grow that as a channel. You can run referral programs or campaigns to kind of give incentives to get people to refer you. But it is one of those channels that's a little bit less controllable. It's a little bit harder to scale. And so if you really want to claim, your portion of that $200 billion, we've got to look at some of these other channels as well that you can tap into. So Google and other search engines are still obviously foundational. This is the bulk of how people search even in 2025. But with this is becoming more and more competitive, and if you are going down the paid route of these search engines, increasingly more expensive, as many of you will be aware. AI tools. So this is a bit of a new one for the last few years. We've seen that people are starting to use these to research different training options, and we'll look at that in a bit more depth in a moment. Social media, LinkedIn, especially for B2B, is a key channel. And then finally, training marketplaces for kind of that centralized place for people to go and look at all the different training options and find and discover new ones. So the rise of AI search. What does this really mean? It's essentially a few things. Uh, First off, it's about people moving towards using things like ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, almost instead of a traditional search engine, to kind of look for options. And then search engines like Google are trying to kind of keep up with that, and so they are introducing things like these AI overviews and summaries. You can see an example on the right-hand side there. We've searched for software and IT training courses in London, and even before the actual typical search results, Google is giving us this AI overview. And what's interesting about this is it's actually recommending specific training organizations or providers. So you can see this is a huge opportunity to be listed in that. You get right at the top of the search result. This is huge. So how do we make the most of that? How do we get listed in these AI summaries or the recommendations that these chatbots are giving back? A few bullet points. We could talk about this further, but showcasing customer reviews and testimonials is really great. AI loves these, and it really helps the AI know that your courses are of high quality and the customers are enjoying them. The more places that mention your company and your courses, the better. So getting listed on marketplaces and other directories can be really helpful. Third bullet point there, optimizing your courses with kind of clear information on the course pages is also really important for the AI to understand what the page is about and what that course covers. And then finally, shifting away from some of that kind of the older traditional SEO strategies like stuffing keywords on a page to more of that kind of generating authoritative expert content. And the great thing about that is that also aligns with kind of SEO best practice for 2025 as well. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Peter now to kind of dive into how you can market and get in front of your ideal customers. Peter, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andre. So I was thinking about this again, this segment from the training provider's perspective, and I've been one for a long time, and there's no doubt that in the various institutions that I work with, my mind turned to marketing from time to time, and whether it's wanting better training, whether it's wanting more training, whatever, I think right now's the time to market our stuff, and maybe let's employ or work with a marketing agency. So imagine you're doing that. You're a training provider and bang, you've engaged a marketing agency. So what do they look like? Well, next slide, please, Andre. You've seen them. There you go. It is your dreams. They'll build up your dreams and they'll take your cash. And let's think, what do these guys do, first of all? Well, first thing they're going to do is say, right, maybe you can have I don't know, half day, 2 days of free time with us. And during that time, they're going to be saying to you, who's your customer? Who are you actually wanting us to market to? And there's lots of different mnemonics, but the ideal customer persona. And so what I'd like you to do just for 30 seconds is think about it as a training provider. Who actually is your customer? You can pop something in the chat if you like. There's a slide going to come up and put some ideas. So, but the most important thing is you to think about it at this point and think, right, who are you trying to reach? And I'll pop some ideas up in the interest of time. Now, remember, at the marketing agency, this is probably going to take about half a day of your free time. So, yeah, first responders, public servants, compliance officers I saw. And it's going to be quite a complex thing for you as a training provider, because one of the things I'm looking at is, are you trying to reach, who's your ideal person? Is it the person who's actually going to have the learning, the people who's going to take the course? Is it the department that they're running? The sales, the finance director, is it them that's interested in it? Is it L&D, the people who are going to manage the training, or HR, graduate training? Is it the procurement people who are actually going to pay for it? Fractional consultants coming around quite often will work with the companies and procure training. And quite often now, in the larger businesses, so I saw one there with companies over £1 million in revenue, it might be the internal learning and development department. We're at a conference in Orlando that was dominated by internal L&D people who are looking to buy in external expertise to augment what they don't have. And what I'm trying to say here, and thank you very much for all the stuff in the chat and the different insights we're getting there, is that this is quite complex, because what we're looking at is all of the above are potentially the people that you are selling to. And they could be all of the above in different territories, in different industries. And so as the marketing agency sits with you, they're potentially going to create ideal customer personas that might end up with about 50 different characteristics. We flip to the next slide, Andre. You'll be very relieved to know I'm not going to read this out. This is simply a slide to say, right, this is one piece that we did to identify an ICP who was a finance director, basically looking to source finance training for her department. And you can see all of the things that you've got to think about for that one person. Imagine doing this for 50 different personas and maybe more. Now, it was great to see some of you have got this nailed down and you've niched the niche, but it is something that you have to work through and decide before you do any marketing at all, who's it going to? Let's sit back a moment and imagine we've done that. The next thing that your marketing agency is going to do is work through what's your value proposition. You can breathe in. I'm not going to go through that with you now. You know you're great, but you could sit down there for a couple of days and saying, right, why are you special to these people? What is great about you? Let's imagine you've nailed that. So you know who you're going to sell to and you know what you're going to sell, basically. The next one is, how do you reach them? How do you do it? And Andre ran through some of those ideas earlier on, whether it's SEO optimization, whether it's trying to get noticed on the open source AI chatbots, whether it's conferences, expos. I'm going to take you behind the scenes in just one of those channels. We don't have time to do everything now. But imagine that what you want to do is an email campaign to these people. You know kind of who you want to get to. Right, let's send them some emails. I think there are three alternatives here. One, you just go to the marketing agency and say, please do this for us. Send loads of emails and get us work. That's easy. It's expensive. The two real disadvantages are you are not in control of it and you don't get to see the end data properly. You could buy in a list, but there are a lot of lists. There's a lot of data protection on those and how many other people are doing it. Or you could do it yourself. And if we flip to the next slide, please, Andre. This is how we would do an email marketing campaign to training buyers. You start off with Sales Navigator in LinkedIn. This is just one way. And you find out who's actually looking for training, who's active in it. You then go to, let's say, Apollo, and Apollo will provide you with, for a price, the data on these people. And you buy the data in from Apollo, you get the email lists. We've found that around about 60% of that data that you buy in from a company like Apollo, you can actually verify the emails. So there are now a third layer of email verification. Once you've done that, you need to be able to send the email in a way that people open it. You need another outfit. Stripo is a good example where they'll create a template that have that sort of README feel to it that people will open. Then you don't want to end up in the spam folders. So you need something like, and we use Pinpoint, it's part of AWS, and it's fantastic for actually sending out emails that won't end up in spam and also end up in the right time in the right time zone. They're managing that for you. Then you want to know what's happened to your emails. And there are various things, Google Analytics and various other ones we can talk through that will show you who's clicked, who's opened, what they've done. And then you need to build your campaign to say, how do we follow this up? Where do we go next with the people that opened? but didn't click, the people who didn't open, the people who opened and clicked. And again, we look at pinpoint there. So what we're looking at in a typical email campaign is 7 moving parts and maybe some more. Let me give you just a quick flip through some data from one we did last week. So this is where you could be hoodwinked by your marketing company. We did a mail shot to just over 13,000 senior HR executives in the UK. Just a test. And it looks fantastic. Wow, nearly 64% of those people, this was cold, by the way, opened the email. Guess what? Piles of those are just robots opening the email to make sure that you are not going to corrupt their system. And what you don't want is a marketing agency coming back to you and saying, look at the response rate that you've got, 64%, when actually, if you look at the bottom there, only around about 9% of those were real people. And that's not a bad average. So out of the 13,000, you've got around about 1,000 or so actually opening and looking at the email. Take us to the next slide, if you would, please, Andre. And what you then want is to see, right, okay, who's interested in my stuff? What kind of industries are they? What kind of seniority? And of course, most importantly, who are they? So I can get back to them. And that, again, is something that I think is a vital part of all of this campaign, to actually then engage and get with the people that are interested in you and also you're going to be useful to. So that really was just sort of, I think, around about 10 minutes of me showing you one of those strong strands that Andre went through, the email campaign, about how you can do it yourself. As you could expect, at the training marketplace, we're going to say we can do it for you. But one of the things that I will say, this is a training and I guess collegiate webinar. So if you want to ask me afterwards or anything about the costs or the effectiveness of any of those things, doing it yourself, please do. And Andre's kind enough just to put out the big bit at the end there. What we're doing at the training marketplace over the last 18 months, our research team have curated a database of over 2.5 million training buyers who we're doing this to. Our email is just one of them, but as I say, we're taking the strain of that. If you want to do it yourself, I'm here to help you with it. But I think that's probably enough of me. I shall pass on to my colleague now, Rob.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Peter. And so Peter's talked a lot about different challenges that you might have to reach your potential customers. And not surprisingly, we've hinted that perhaps the training marketplace and Arlo will help you do that. But before we actually get into kind of my journey and my experience, I just want to have a quick poll, and I want to strip it all back and ask, why do you want to do marketing? Now, that might sound like the stupidest question ever. All right, but I genuinely want to know, what is your objective? Marketing is obviously going to lead to some success. I've put down some ideas that I came up with. Okay, I don't want to talk about them until we've seen some answers in. So there should be a poll on your screen now. Just select one of those 5. If none of the first 4 match the reason why you market, right, then go for something else. And I am forcing you into a single choice. So if you go all 4, I need to know which is the main one. Okay, so we'll just give you a couple of moments to do that. What's your main objective of marketing? This is without me even explaining what marketing is, but in true online trainer style, I continue to talk over you answering a question. So. Okay. So hopefully that should be enough time. And if we could display that. All right, fantastic. So I had no idea where this was going to go. And so therefore 81% is to get new clients. And this might seem blindingly obvious, but at the end of the day, unless you know what your objective is from marketing, then there's absolutely no point starting a marketing campaign and wasting time and or money. All right. For me, I don't want to get new clients. Now, that might sound like the stupidest thing ever. All right. What I want to do is I want to do the same number of training days that I do. I'm a one-man band. I know we've got a couple of really large firms in here. We've got quite a varied number in between as well. I just want better quality training days. And by that, I mean, ideally fewer days, but around the same number of days would be great at a higher day rate and teaching the things that I like, right? We've all got, if you're actual trainers in the room, I'm sure we've got managerial roles as well. But if you're a trainer, you've got certain subjects that you think, I'll absolutely knock that out of the park. I do that better than anyone else I know. And unfortunately, when I come to sell more of that day, then the client just says, well, we'd like you to do that whole 4-week program you did last year. And I really want that 2 days. I want more and more of that. So therefore, is it a case that I want more days? Do I want higher day rate? Obviously, we'd all prefer, if I do 60 days a year at £3,000 a day, doing my favorite subjects, then I'm very happy having a decent living, working part-time. And that's much better on every level than 80 days a year at, let's say, 1,500. So starting with one stupid question, moving on to the next slide with another, why aren't you there? Most of you said, get more clients, why haven't you got them? Why do you have this need for clients? Now, some of you said that the issue is the money and the time and things like that. Absolutely. But for me, the barriers, just to start the discussion, and by all means, argue it in the chat on this, is one, I don't know where to find new clients. So therefore, most of my business, as it was with lots of you, what we said at the beginning, is, repeat business, word of mouth, right? Rob's good in the classroom, he entertains, and people move firms and they use me. But I don't know how to find new clients without spending an absolute fortune on some scattergun approach like Peter was mentioning, which I think the return is potentially zero, but it's going to be a very small return on investment. In addition to that, I struggle to showcase the things that I'm absolutely great at. It might sound a bit sad, but I think I'm better at training Excel than any other person on the planet, right? The arrogance of the trainer, right? But how can I tell people that when they come up to me and want me to teach bonds, fixed income, and asset management? But the most important thing that I realized quite a while ago is I don't know what my clients actually want. And not just the clients I have, the clients I don't have. Most of you said you want new clients. Well, what do they want? And we all fall into the habit. We say, oh, I'll guess what they want. And therefore, as a result of that, I'll build my marketing campaign based on what I think they want. But we don't, unless you're doing something like I'm going to talk about in a moment, we don't actually know what they want, all right? Especially the ones that you don't even work with. So the examples I've given on the screen, what subjects are important to them? I had a client contact me last year and they said, we want to take VBA out of this program, which is Visual Basic, a coding language, and we want to put Python in. I immediately thought, okay, I can do that for you. But is this a trend? Are people going to stop using VBA and they're going to start using Python? Is that something I need to start building lots of Python courses now rather than VBA? Or is this just a one-off? It's just an outlier. I don't know. Also, just last month, I have a Spanish bank who I'm doing a graduate program for in New York. It's very international. In the summer, they called me up just last month and said, we no longer want that program to be in person. We want it to be completely virtual, which saves on me traveling, so I'm okay with that. But again, is that a trend or is it a one-off? Is this people moving back to online post-COVID? We went back into the classroom. Now maybe clients have realized that's not the trend, and therefore the benefits don't outweigh the extra cost of in-person. And again, am I going to make my decision solely on that one instance and that one piece of evidence? And there's so much more that I don't know, right? And so therefore, let me show you how I get around this. Now, again, the disclaimer, I'm going to show you the training marketplace, but I'll mention other ways that you can do this as well. So we're going to go for an example of a listing, always up for doing a little bit of marketing. The listing we're going to look at is going to be my training companies, but we'll get there in a moment. just to show you, this was a screen Peter showed at the beginning of the session. And this is what the screen looks like from the buyer's perspective when they come to the training marketplace. So the training marketplace, as Peter said, it's a B2B marketplace allowing training buyers to find suitable providers. They could either use what's on the left-hand side, which is more of a standardized, like filter database approach, or they can use what's on the right-hand side, which is a more of an NLP AI-driven approach where people can use emotions such as I want a funny, lively, professional, concise trainer, as well as going through what you actually want them to actually do. Okay. So therefore, if we actually go through this and we move on to here, no matter what you are marketing, no matter how you decide to market yourself, and this is preaching to the converted, you all have this, a storefront of some type is very, very important. So this is my storefront, or one of my storefronts, which is my storefront profile on the training marketplace. Now, you might have a fantastic website already. I personally don't, all right, but it's getting there, all right? But I'm going to say that in addition to your website, listing your firm in a standardized way in a community environment makes the chance that buyers will actively reach out to you so much higher. And why? Think about how you buy anything on the internet at the moment. Imagine I wanted to buy a baseball cap online, and I type into Google baseball cap. You're going to find tens, if not hundreds of thousands of results. The top ones will be sponsored. So therefore, they're pushed to the top. Maybe they're the worst baseball caps as they've spent all their money through Google to get to the top. But then how do you actually find anything out? You have to click on one of the baseball caps that looks interesting. You go to their site. You don't know your way around the site. You accept cookies. You then realize how their navigation works and how their search filters work. And then eventually you get down to a cap. And then you come out and you do exactly the same thing again. Most people, after about 4 visits, will go, I don't care anymore. I've lost the will to live. Why am I just wasting time getting to understand these different sites? By having a standardized shop front like we do here on the screen or in any two-sided marketplace, right, then you can actually see the exact same layout with, albeit maybe more information, for every training provider who matched with either of the 2 search methods. You can also filter down through any of 25 filters to further refine your search. Okay, just showing you very quickly on my profile. And by all means, if anyone has any work for a financial services trainer, then you can get in touch after the session. See, always be marketing. That's the other thing. Okay, so therefore, you can see here, I've got an introduction to my company. Also on the right-hand side, I do have something called the TM view. This profile is completely free. All right, it's free to set up for any view right now. You can add reviews, you can add trainers, you can do everything you want completely free. And you're thinking, what's the catch? Well, you might think we then take 50% of your revenue. We take 0% of the revenue you generate from using our platform. Okay, there are a couple of extra features which you could pay a premium amount for, but the vast majority is completely free. The TM view that you can see on the screen is actually generated by the training marketplace through an interview process, and that's a premium feature. If we scroll down to the rest of my profile, you can see then you can also have information like there's the amazing trainers who work for Alumna Consulting. They used to have better vision and not need glasses. You can also see the subjects they train. And then if we scroll down again, you can see reviews and things like that. Okay, but it's a nice standardized storefront. But does anyone care? I've produced something, this has been maybe a vanity project. I've produced something that I think people like to look at and people like to see. It's complete nonsense to not actually think, what do people want? If you're not selling what people want in the method they want, then you're completely wasting your time. Think Toys R Us, think BlackBerry, think Kodak. All 3 of those companies had amazing offerings, but they weren't offering what the clients wanted, in some cases anymore, or in some cases ever. They weren't keeping up with the trends and the demands of the new customers coming in. They all failed for that same reason. Now, there is a fantastic book. I'd be interested, just give me a yes in the chat if anyone's read it. I recommend I'm not on commission from Amazon. I'll give you an affiliate link now. No, It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's a psychology book by Daniel Kahneman. Right? Has anyone read it? Right. It's a little bit heavy. The first 20 pages are a little bit, but you kind of get over a bridge and you get like, oh my God. I really recommend everyone to get it. Okay. So I'll put it into the chat at the end as well, just so everyone gets the actual, it sounds like I'm going to put a link. I'll just put the name of the book in there. Right. It's absolutely amazing. And concepts in the book, such as you're using system 1 rather than system 2, confirmation bias, the effect heuristic. You're basically building an image of your client with absolutely no knowledge. And we convince ourselves that we know the client. So therefore, we're not going to look elsewhere for things that are going to disprove. In fact, we'll ignore things that disprove, that actually we're completely out of touch, trying to teach VBA when everyone wants Python. So therefore, no matter what you do, okay, as a result of this session or this little part of the session, is you need to have some method of knowing what your clients are thinking. Okay, so yeah, actually, if we can go on to the next slide, that would be great. So we need to have some way of knowing them. You need some method of analytics. That might be 6 websites you go to, 10 searches you do on Google or you say Twitter, X, look at me. And you do them and you write down the results every time. There's websites you can use like Hotjar. If you haven't used Hotjar and you've got a website, link Hotjar to your website and it'll tell you where people spend their time on your website. How far down do they scroll? Which buttons do they click more often than not? And it gives you a heat map, which is really useful. You need to search for information to understand your clients. What none of those things do is help you understand your competitors as well. I think that's very important. So therefore, on the screen, I've got the dashboard that you get on the training marketplace, which tells me about the journey that people have and tells me about how to improve my offering and am I offering what people want. Now, I could show you there's over 30 statistics and things at the moment, and that's growing every week at the moment from feedback from people like yourselves. But on the screen at the moment, I can show you, it shows how many people are visiting my profile, how many favorited my page. I can also see how that's trending over time. So is my profile performing at an accelerating rate, or is it getting better but at a decelerating rate? Also, how does that compare to other providers? The training marketplace will also produce a report which tells you how you can improve your profile, and it's got over 25 different tips on that. You might not need all 25, but whichever ones you're lacking, it immediately tells, compared to your peers, why your profile is lacking a little bit. I can also see how many people reach out to me after visiting my profile. So how many click onto my website and how many use the contact form on the training marketplace platform. And again, that's fine to see, 1%. I'm really happy that 1% contact me, but it's 2% for my peers. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Now I could wax lyrical about this for the next hour. All right, I can see Andre looking at his watch already. So instead, I'm going to speed up. I'm just going to show you 2 more things from this. So on the left-hand side, or the top left, I've got what subjects are people searching for. Okay, so therefore the subjects on here that people are searching for. So general finance. So these are my peer subjects. I can also do this by time. I can also see this as a trend. When my person asked me to do Python rather than VBA, I came on here and saw that no, Python wasn't trending. VBA was still stronger. It was a one-off. I didn't know that before. That completely changed my whole development plan for the year. Also looking at the bottom right on my profile, I can see that 47% nearly of the time people spend on my profile is looking at reviews. I've only put about 40 reviews on since I started using the marketplace. I've got thousands of historical reviews. I need to put those on as well. I didn't realize just how important reviews are. The system will also say whether my reviews are detailed enough compared to my peers. So therefore, I can actually in future, when I'm going to say, please try and write a couple of extra sentences, it really, really helps. Okay, so it's those kind of information. And then the final one I want to show you on the next slide is delivery method. Do you remember my Spanish client who wanted to change the New York course from in-person to virtual? I came here and I looked at this and I can see that delivery is the most important thing after subject that people search for. And if I then hover over delivery, I can actually see that 53% of people who choose delivery want it in person, which means 46.5% other way, hybrid or virtual. I look at that trending over time and I realize that no, this isn't some post-COVID move back to virtual, thankfully, in my opinion. Okay, this is actually just one client who's spent too much on their budget and realized New York hotels cost too much. I didn't know that before. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to take one tiny bit of information and completely change my business model or make an assumption on what's availability, the availability heuristic, which is mentioned in that book that I mentioned as well. Okay, so this is the kind of information that we go to. And if we can just go to my last slide, and then we will hand back to Andre. You know, if you want better quality training days, by that, it's whatever you think. To me, it's fewer days or the maximum, the number of days I do, which is about 60 a year, but teaching the things I like to do and teaching them at a higher day rate. Then consider your storefront, absolutely, but know your customer. I should have put that in bold and red and made it flash irritatingly. Have some method of keeping on top of market trends so that you know what's important and have that continuous loop. Obviously, I'm going to say the training marketplace, you can look at your dashboard every day and it's live data. But whatever method, Hotjar, Google Analytics, all of those things, have some regimented practice in place to make sure, I love training, right? I love in the classroom or virtual. I hate all the other stuff. Without marketing, don't get me wrong, if you're good in the classroom, then you'll get days of training through repeat business and people moving and contacting you and saying, come and do us. Annually, there's over 5 billion training days up for grabs in the world. 5 billion a year. Now, first of all, make sure you're in a position to grab the ones that you need. But more importantly, try and make sure you're in a position to grab the ones that you actually want. All right. And the final word from me is your gut feeling isn't a marketing strategy. Stop guessing what clients want. But if you are successfully driving people to your website, searching for the things that you love to teach, then how do you then convert them into a sale? They're there, they're excited, but how do you do that final conversion? And for that, I'm going to hand you back to Andre. But please pop any questions or challenges at what I said into the chat and sign up for your free profile using the QR code at the end.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. And I do see there are some questions coming through, so we'll get to those at the end. But yeah, the fundamentals of a high converting training website. Now, this is a really important topic, as Rob said. Depending on which different marketing channels you go for, many of them will end up linking them to your website. So this is really important to get right. It's therefore a big topic. We don't have time to kind of go into it at huge amount of depths. This could be its own webinar or even a series of webinars on its own. But we'll cover some of the fundamentals. We'll look at a quick example that combines some of these elements, and then we'll jump into that Q&A. So first off, first impressions matter. Some of the kind of key elements, you've got to have a fast, responsive, and accessible website. Now, to briefly expand on those fast, what we've seen in the data is that if your website takes over 3 seconds to load, you lose about 50% of your people. They'll click away. So speed is hugely important. Responsive, this is all about your website being able to adapt to the various different devices, screen sizes, and shapes that people are accessing your website from. Mobile first. Actually, accessible first. Now, accessible is about making your website usable for anyone. Things like making sure there's a good amount of contrast between text and the background colors. But it's also about things around people with accessibility requirements, who are using screen readers or their keyboard to navigate your website. So this obviously unlocks, a larger audience if your website is accessible. But in many places, it's becoming also the law. It's the regulations coming into effect, and so it is important to keep that in mind. Mobile first. So we're also seeing that about 60% or a little bit over of users on the internet are using on their mobile device. And so in the past, you would usually build your website first for a desktop and then make it also work for a mobile. The recommendation now is actually to reverse that and build it first to look great and work great on a mobile device, and then also make it responsive so that it can be accessed on other screen sizes. Modern and on brand, that's pretty self-explanatory. That sort of goes into that building the brand and trust and credibility. Clear messaging. One thing I'll mention on that, the three things that we see people are mostly coming to your website with questions in their mind. The three questions that they have are, why this course, why this company, and why now? And so when you're designing your course pages, or when you're designing your website as a whole, have those questions in the back of your mind about am I answering those effectively? Good navigation, making it as easy as possible for people to know where to click and where to go to get the information that they need. And then finally, social proof and reviews. As Rob mentioned, that was the key place that people were going to on his profile on the training marketplace. It's also just as crucial to have on your website. As we mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar, attention spans are shorter than ever. So making it as quick and easy to go from landing on your website, finding the course that they want, and checking out or purchasing that course is crucial. One of the ways we can do that is by making a great user experience that has the options for filtering and whatnot that's needed to them to kind of narrow down and find the course that they're looking for. Again, this is a huge topic on its own. I'll touch on one thing here, is to think about what's the mindset of the people coming to your website? Are they looking for or needing to do a specific course? And in that case, you want the filtering to be really focused around topics or categories, potentially even them to kind of search for a particular course name. Or are they coming to your website maybe thinking, I want to do a course in April. Let's see what's coming up. And that's a very different mindset. You then want to have dates, locations, kind of front and center, and filtering options for that. Obviously, once they have found the course that they want, and they're going to that checkout or registration form, this is really where the conversion or the purchase happens. So this is really crucial to get right. A few points here, I'll just touch on them briefly. First off, built for training. There's a lot of e-commerce solutions out there. A lot of the website builders out there will have e-commerce components to them. The likes of Shopify have e-commerce functionality, and they're great. The one challenge with them is that they are sort of built for selling products rather than training. And there are similarities, but there's also some sort of nuance when it comes to selling training in particular. Things like the terminology, dates, times, sessions, locations, and things like that. Providing payment options, obviously having things like credit card payments online is fantastic. If you do have higher ticket courses, thinking about things around, accepting invoice payments or buy now, pay later options, Klarna, Afterpay, ClearPay, etc. And then those final two bullet points, thinking about tying it into the rest of your kind of registration and automation system behind the scenes. Things like automated communication. So, as soon as someone signs up to a course, you do want them to get a near instant confirmation email to say, hey, this is the course you've registered on. Here's the details, location, dates, times, etc., and all the information that they need. So let's take a look at a quick example, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. So let me just share my other screen here. All right. It's just loading up there. Rob and Peter, you can see that screen okay?
All good.
Fantastic. So here we're looking at a training website. We can see their courses listed out here. As I mentioned, filtering is really important. We've got some clear filtering options here: category, learning options, languages, time zone, and also that search to kind of narrow down to a specific course. If I do go ahead and click on one of these courses, click on this one, and we'll just wait for this to load up here. Here we get taken to that course details page. I'll call out a few key pieces of information that are that's kind of key to this page. We see these star ratings. This is kind of tying into that social proof. This is also a piece of social proof. It's mentioning, over 2,000 people enrolled in this course. It's obviously a popular course, and that helps build that trust and credibility. All the information we need, a video as well. This is giving us everything we need to kind of understand, is this the course for me? Tying back into that first why this course. We've got some reviews here as well. Again, that's why this course, but also potentially why this company as well. And then if we are interested, we can go ahead and register for one of these dates, which we get taken straight into the checkout. We can see terminology is all aligned with training, dates and times, removing or adding courses, adding attendees so I can register multiple people at the same time, etc. So yeah, just a quick look, obviously, into one example there. I'll jump back to this screen. All right. So in terms of how we can implement these ideas, you can obviously go ahead and implement these yourself. Take some of these ideas that we've spoken about and add them to your existing website. Another option is we've actually got our designers and developers to build done-for-you templates. So if you'd like, we can give you those templates. You can brand them up to match your website's look and feel or your brand, and then instantly get the benefits of those templates. So if that's something of interest to you, the email we'll send out after this with the link to the recording will include some next steps to get access to those templates. All right, key takeaways. As we mentioned at the very beginning, the training market is huge and growing. We've seen that customer needs and behavior is shifting in recent years, and it's harder to get in front of the right people at the right time. And so how do we be successful in this environment? Being laser focused on your ideal customer personas, your ICPs, and harnessing data where possible to really understand where they are looking for training. Building strong trust and credibility with your brand, meeting your customers where they are. So this is really about understanding where they're going and searching for training, things like the AI search and training marketplaces, as we discussed. And finally, optimizing your website for conversion. All right, I will pull up my Q&A over here. I did see some question had come through. I see, Rob, you had answered some of those there. Did you want to kind of mention any of that, or is what you put there in the Q&A box all good?
So Laura's question was just about the data we showed on the trends for what people are looking for, and so I just responded that we've got the data however you want to slice it, and we're just looking for suggestions like Laura's about how to do the front end and what you'd like to see. That's actually one that's already on the list of about 15 on the dev team at the moment. So that was a great spot. And then Svet's question was about using so language learning, so actual like learning German or Spanish, and the training marketplaces. And I was intrigued, and Peter might want to jump in on this. That isn't an area that we have considered putting on as one of our what we call verticals, so language learning. And so it's certainly something for us to take away and have a think about. I know my daughter's just learned Swedish just so she can talk to her friends without anyone understanding it, and she just used an app. So yeah, I'm not sure what the demand's like. How do people learning languages at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, love to hear more about that, and particularly, niches there. Because I think one of the things that you can be looking at is it learning language for business, finance, or is it learning languages for, IT, whatever. I don't know enough about that, but what we're interested in is hearing what people want and seeing if we're the right forum and platform to market it. If we're not, we'll let you know. But like to pursue that conversation.
Awesome. All right, just check the chat if there's any final things for us to cover.
Can I just say that my favorite comment
Yeah.
to what's the most hated profession was physical therapists, and then later on when it was who's your ideal customer, the answer was physical therapists on the same person.
That is fantastic.
That made my evening. Thank you
I
very
guess,
much.
Peter, to wrap it up, did you want to reveal the answer to that question you posed at the beginning?
Yeah, I haven't actually looked through the chat, but I'm sure there were a few people who got it right. And the most hated profession, which the only doubt that I'd have is whether it can be regarded as a profession, but it's in there, is indeed politicians. So you can take that one away, and we'll see what the world's most famous politician is doing with tariffs when we finish this particular one. But yeah, politicians beat lawyers.
Fantastic. And I do see that we are just over time. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. There's two quick QR codes up on the screen you see there. First one, if you're interested in learning more about Arlo or getting access to those website templates, feel free to scan that first one. Book a time in my calendar. More than happy to give you a demo of either the templates or Arlo and help you get access. And Peter, what about that second QR code there?
Yeah, if you just scan that, that'll just take you to the link to create your free accounts on the marketplace. The one thing is, to just emphasize, we're happy to share information, get feedback, and the account is free. We're not here selling on this particular webinar. So hopefully you enjoyed it, you feel comfortable, and if you create a profile, we'll help you with it. And thank you all very much for listening.
Yeah, and thank you, Peter and Rob, for co-hosting this webinar today. Thanks, everyone.